So hi everyone, welcome to Talking Tech. I'm your host, Caroline Hill from Legal IT Insider, and today we have a webinar looking at MCP Explained, how to bring your CLM into ChatGPT and Claude. So our webinar today will be talking with AI-powered contract management provider Concord, I'll learn to speak, in which we'll be discussing and Concord will be demonstrating how MCP works, what it means for legal, how it can connect your CLM to ChatGPT and Claude so you can search, analyze and act on contracts in one place. I'm joined today by Zach Heinz, who's head of sales at Concord, to discuss what legal teams need to know about MCP as adoption of Gen AI technologies accelerates. Zach, who's based in beautiful Salt Lake City. He's been with Concord for 10 years. He's been head of sales since September 2001. He's been road testing MCP himself in various ways, but we'll be giving a demo today of a few of MCP's corporate use cases in the context that I just described. Hi, Zach.
Hey, nice to be here today. Thanks for having us. And yeah, excited to talk through this very exciting topic. And yeah, thanks for having me.
So good to have you. It really is just the topic of the day, isn't it? So in this webinar, we'll be talking about just to give you the context and the feel for what you've got coming up. So we'll be talking about what is MCP, how does it work, what this means for legal, including live data access and cross-system intelligence, where MCP is headed, what to watch for around permissions, data privacy and scope, and what to do right now, including we're going to end with some really useful takeaways. It would be so great if you jump in with your questions as we go. So I know Concord are Zach's very familiar with webinars and very comfortable asking your questions as we go. So just before we dive in to what is MCP, just Concord, obviously a well-known name. You've been around a really long time, but interestingly, you relaunched the platform recently, didn't you? And you yourselves have embraced MCP. I just wondered if you could just briefly tell us about that before we sort of dive into the weeds of MCP itself.
Yeah, so Concord's been around for, we're going on our 12th year in business now. I've been with Concord for about 10 years, as you mentioned. And, we were a traditional CLM, started out a long time ago, long time ago now, but when CLM was really kind of just, I think, kind of taking off in the marketplace. So we had a lot of the traditional features, a place to create, negotiate, sign, and store your documents. Obviously, AI has been a massive evolution and revolution over the past couple of years here. And at Concord, we realized like that we're either going to adopt this AI technology and change the way that we're working, or we're probably going to die as a company. And so our CEO, Matt, definitely understood the vision of that. And so we not only in the platform decided to bring in all the AI features and functionality that we could, but we also did that internally with our business, where we have people on our teams now where their sole job is to be in charge of kind of scripting the AI and teaching us how we should be using AI to make our jobs, a lot more efficient every day. So their whole role is like AI specialists. And so that's really a huge adoption that we've made internally here at Concord, is to really embrace the LLMs, the MCP servers, and connect all our different tools together. And it's been a huge game changer for us. We're able to just do so much more now than we could before by using these tools. So we not only have it in Concord, but also we are using it, all day long. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think that's got to be the way forward, hasn't it? For all of us, every single one of us has got to sort of examine our own business internally and externally in terms of what we offer. And so I think that's absolutely the road ahead. So big question, what is MCP? So I've talked about this. I've had great conversations. I know that there's a huge demand to really understand it. We've got a great audience of people who there's a mixture actually. We've got techies, we've got lawyers, we've got engineers. But from your perspective, I know it'd be great if you just enlarge my screen. I know you've got a slide you're going to talk me through, or perhaps not. If you talk me through your definition when you're talking to customers.
Yeah, I'll just show this slide real quick because I think this will help to kind of set the stage for what it is. So MCP
Yeah.
is Model Context Protocol. The idea is basically it's a way to connect all of your different applications into your LLMs. The LLM being ChatGPT, Claude, Microsoft Copilot, Gemini from Google. There's all these different amazing LLMs that are, being built and improved every day. And they're very, very powerful. They have lots of data in them and the ability to, manage lots of data points and build agents and do all these different things. So the MCP is the way that we connect all of your different applications into the LLM. So for example, and I'll just move to this real quick here. For example, your Salesforces, your Slacks, your Concords, your CLMs. So all of the different tools that you're using today, you can now truly leverage the power of AI by using that MCP protocol. So that's really what it is it's a connector between tools. For those of you who are a little bit more techy, you know a lot about like APIs, the way they work. It's used to pass data between different systems and connect different systems. I see the MCP as very similar to that, really just much more directly tied into the LLMs. And I'm not the most technical person. I'm a sales guy. I'm the head of sales here at Concord, but that would be the easy way for me to describe it. So
Yeah. People assume, if you just stop sharing, if you don't mind, just Zach, for a sec, just thank you for that. Unless anyone wants to go back, people assume LLMs, it's grown so fast, right? So large language models has grown, it's become part of our daily verse, but it's really relatively recently, comparatively, that we've been talking about it. People seem to assume that they can do more than they can. Someone described it to me as that they're super clever, but actually quite dumb until you connect them to something. People assume that there's a search function. Perhaps this is, forgive me, I'm a lawyer, not a techie still, and I'm definitely do not mean to patronize anyone. My journey is always like this. But I went to a really interesting conference where they were explaining that you have to connect LLM to a search. And then what this now is with MCP is effectively you're enabling them, you're just connecting, obviously a bit more than this, but you're connecting them to tools so that they can start to become really supercharged, right? So that you can start to, they can start to, and without having to worry about updates screwing everything up, you can actually start to, it's sort of the language that will be able to connect all of the different tools so that you can start to do really super clever things with them. I know that's such a basic explanation, but sometimes these basic explanations are super helpful in terms of the vision of what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think for me personally, I'll give you my personal example how I use it every day because I think that'll kind of help connect things together. So I'm a sales guy. I have lots of deals and opportunities in my pipeline in HubSpot. I have my emails, obviously, that I kind of live and breathe by. Like email is where I do everything because I'm, in sales. That's just kind of how it works, and obviously the phone and other tools. But I'm able to come in every morning and ask a simple question in Claude and say, hey, look into HubSpot and find all the deals that I need to follow up with today. It literally will go into Claude, it'll find all my deals, it'll write emails for me, and then I can literally just send those emails. And I can even have the MCP send the emails for me. Like, it's pretty crazy. So that's for me personally, the ability to connect into all these different tools and applications and leverage the power of these systems is, to me, that's been the biggest change. I've been using it for about 6 months now. And MCP is a brand new thing, by the way. For those of you that feel like you're a little bit behind, it's only been released for just over a year. Like, it's a brand new thing. Like, this is not old technology at this point. But for me to be able to do that and automate all my processes, I mean, I've been in sales for 20 years now, and it's just been, I mean, I wish I had it 20 years ago, like the stuff that I can do with it now. So, and we're seeing a lot of these similar use cases with our legal teams where the ones that are really starting to adopt the technology, they're just like, we don't know how we ever lived without this, like going in and manually finding things and manually updating contracts, like that's really going to just be a thing of the past. So it's pretty cool. And we do have some examples, of course, that we'll run through
Yeah.
today. So.
I'm looking forward to your demo. Got a question. Why MCP? I'm just going to ask questions as we go, if that's okay, Zach, because I feel like,
Yeah.
that keeps it fresh. Why MCP instead of normal tools and APIs?
Yeah, I mean, the MCP is directly tied into your LLM, so that would be the main reason. And also, the kind of first iteration of this is connecting the systems together, asking your questions in your LLMs. Like, that's really cool, and you'll see me demo that today. The next iteration of it is actually building the AI agents, which is kind of the next wave, and you're seeing a lot of this online on LinkedIn, like everyone's talking about these AI agents. Once you have that MCP connection, you can then start building these agents to go and do things for you completely autonomous, which is a little bit scary, I think, at times, but that's the reason behind it, is just really leveraging the power of those tools. And the easiest way to do that is through the MCP. So
That's been so interesting in legal, because obviously one of the things that we've battled with for years is this lack of integration. So lots of different systems, quite big systems, that don't really speak to each other. And so when we've talked for a while now about agentic AI, the challenge has really been that systems don't speak to each other. It's a case of, if it's really agentic and you're asking it to go off and do various tasks autonomously, it's not going to be able to do that. But actually, I think this is going to be very much a game changer in that sense.
yep, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. I mean, I'm kind of like excited to show the demo. So let me know
Yeah.
when we once people see it, they're always like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, that's what it is." All right.
Do
Anyway,
you I mean, we could do the demo first and then come back to, we were going to talk about things like live access, live data access, and cross system intelligence. Perhaps, your demo will cover some of that. I mean, I'm happy for you to jump into the demo if you want, and then people can ask questions on the demo.
yeah, I think that'd be useful just because they're probably building a picture in their minds, and then it's
Okay,
like, maybe let's show it to them,
let's
and they
do
can see
it.
kind of
Let's
how it
do it. We
works.
can be flexible, Zach. We can just jump right in.
I'm throwing you for a loop, but thank you. Yes, I think this is good. It flows well. Um, Let me pull up Claude here, my good friend Claude. So internally at Concord, we use Claude. Honestly, we've used lots of different tools, ChatGPT, Gemini, and we have different tools that are built into our Concord application as well. But I'm just going to use Claude for the demonstration today because that's the one that I have connected in. So the cool thing about these MCP servers, honestly, is probably how easy they are to set up. And you're seeing my screen okay, right? I want to make sure.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to make sure that I can connect these things in together. And so connecting things in with the MCP is crazy simple. Like, you go to your application, you activate it, and then you'll come into whichever LLM you're using, and you can just search for that different app, and then you can turn it on. And then you have to kind of give it some basic permissions, and you're good to go. So as you can see, these are some of the different applications I'm connected to. I have Google Drive, I have HubSpot, Slack, Concord. So it's very easy for me to see which ones are activated, and then I can just start asking questions. So that's pretty much it. Let's say that we want to do a simple legal use case here. I want to look at a specific document in the system. So I'm going to ask it to find a preferred supplier agreement, this title here, and tell me if there's any risk to my business. So we're going to just let the LLM do its thing. And I think one of the coolest things about this whole process is that the AI is going to actually work through this in its own way. And I do these demonstrations a lot. The coolest thing to me is, like, it doesn't do it the same way every time. It's actually learning new ways to do these things much more effectively, even on a daily basis. Like, it's going to change the way that it does it. But what's happening here is, because it's connected into Concord, it's going to actually go into my database in Concord. It's going to look for that contract, which it just found the contract, as you can see here. And then it's going to give me that assessment of the risk for that agreement. So it did exactly what I asked it to do. It was able to find the contract, and now it's giving me an assessment of the risk within that agreement and breaking that down for me here in the system. So pretty powerful stuff.
Very cool.
The thing I like about it is that it will, and this one is a pretty simple prompt. I also helped it by telling it to look in Concord. Sometimes it will have to, like, kind of think for a second before it determines what to do. So, and that's one thing I want to talk about with prompting. The more specific you can be, the faster the results are usually going to be, because the AI is not going to have to sit there and think about it. So that's just kind of a simple use case there. I asked it to go find a contract, tell me the risk, and it did that exact thing. Because it's connected into my Concord account, the document's there, and it's able to pull that information in. So pretty cool, simple use
Really
case.
cool. Yeah.
I want to show you another quick use case. I may not run through all three of them right now, but let me show you another simple one. Let's say that we want to actually look at all documents that have a specific clause or term in them. So one thing that I get asked about a lot with contract management with CLM is like, hey, I'm a brand new lawyer in this company. I just came in, I'm on the in-house team. I have no idea what's in these contracts. I have no idea what they've agreed to over all these years. And so a lot of the times our customers are looking for, like, can you please help me just know what's in them? And so you could actually upload all your documents into your CLM, whether it's Concord or something else, and then you can ask basic questions about them using the MCP server. So it's like, hey, list all my contracts in this database with this unlimited liability clause, or no liability cap. And so it's going to go into Concord because that's the source that it has, and it's going to run through all those contracts and find those for you. So anyway, and questions here, Caroline?
Yeah. With the functionality that you've just shown, describe the sorts of people that are looking at this in terms of the specific type of functionality. So in-house teams, I've seen in-house teams building some super cool stuff, connecting ChatGPT to their system. Tell me, it's going to sound like a really dumb question, but I really want to ask it. In terms of like, obviously these systems, you can find a lot of stuff. They're super clever. Like, tell me, for somebody who's going, why would I do this? Do I need to do this? What advantage does this give me?
I mean, it gives a massive advantage. So, like I said, I've been at Congo for 10 years. 10 years ago, it was, how do we how do we find this information in your contracts?
Mm.
There was basic OCR technology, so you could upload your documents. They could be, run through that OCR, so they could have the image taken over to text. But then it would just be, up to you to be able to do that search text in the system. There was no AI that's going to be able to help you go and kind of find these things. And so what I mean, I see all sorts of people across legal teams, finance, procurement, like everyone's kind of using these technologies now because getting to the source of data, getting to what you're looking for is just, it's I can't even define how much faster it is. When I very first started with Concord, our onboarding process is, manually upload all your documents, go through all the contracts one by one, figure out the metadata, put that into your summary sheet, build your reports, and then maybe search for things when you need them. It was very, very manual process. And today, the fact that I can come in, ask one question, and within 30 seconds, it finds everything I'm looking for is just like kind of mind blowing. If you were to show that to legal teams 10 years ago, they would just be like, they would think that you're lying. It's like magic, right? So it's pretty cool. The time savings, the ability to go in and actually see what's in your contracts and see the risk level, and also we're talking a lot about risk, but also like playbooking. It's a lot of these teams want to know, okay, what things do we, for our standard terms of service, what are we routinely changing? And of the things we're routinely changing, should we even keep those the same way? Or maybe we should update our terms so that we don't have to keep changing them every single time we go through a contract red line or negotiation. Like those are the types of things that people are able to surface using AI and using these types of tools. So yeah, there's a million different use cases.
I want to come back to, yeah, I've got loads of questions, but like I just want to ask this one now. So did you need to structure content in the database to help the MCP get to the relevant information easily?
That's the amazing thing. I didn't, and you don't. Because so the key component is that OCR. So if you think about it, you upload your documents into a tool like a CLM, like a Concord or other places. As long as the AI can read the document, which is where the OCR comes in, it's going to be able to sort through them, find the data points, and then be able to help you. You don't have to have your data structured in any specific way. So I definitely understand the question. 10 years ago, that would be very important to, the whole contract space and the whole document space is structuring metadata and being able to search metadata and find things specifically. The amazing thing about these tools is that's no longer really relevant because it is actually searching across the entire document. So you upload that scanned image, you upload that text PDF that was signed through DocuSign or other tools. And once you have that OCR text copy, the LLM and the AI is able to just simply read through it. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Is that true? So, for example, sometimes the examples that I've seen that people really want to find, it's like they'll say, with real estate, with real estate leases, or they'll be like, a lot of the work that I've seen around metadata will be around dates, etc., like enriching the data to make sure that you've got those, so the type of the contract, the dates, etc., so that you can then start to interrogate it and produce whatever you might want to produce. You can export that data, and then you can start to really do something valuable on top of your normal day-to-day for the client, like providing all the analysis, etc. Are you suggesting that with this you don't need to do any of that enrichment?
The enrichment in your CLM is still really important for like reporting purposes, for filtering purposes. Maybe you want to see a deadline report of all contracts expiring this month or this year, or whatever. So those things are still very important. We have AI data extraction with Concord, and most CLMs do as well, where as soon as you upload that document, your CLM should be able to extract the key data and fill that into the summary sheet and build all the reporting. So that's an important part of it. But back to the question about, do you need to structure the data or the content in a specific way for the LLMs to work? The answer is you don't, because it is actually able to go in and review the entire document and extract the details in real time that it needs. There's no need for you to put it in there in a specific way or to have specific metadata. That's not going to affect the LLM is what I'm referring to. Yeah, that stuff's all very important still for, basic CLM functionality, definitely.
There's a question, I'm not sure I understand. Possible with the documents already signed under Concord 2?
Yeah, I mean, any document you sign through Concord, through DocuSign, through Adobe Sign, they will all be able to be run through, as long as they run through that OCR, which most systems have, like Concord, the AI is going to be able to pick up all the data within that document. So yeah, doesn't matter if it's already signed, doesn't matter if it's a scanned image. You could have something that was wet signed, back in the day, wet sign, I know people still do that. You could scan it in, and then that OCR will convert it, and then the AI will be able to pick up all the data. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. Do you want to? Everyone's doing my job. I love these kind of webinars. So, how does the LLM handle context window if it's searching through all the contracts to answer our query?
That is a question that is way above my pay grade. That would be our AI experts that could help you out with that. It's a great question. I have some of the answers, but I don't want to give you the answers that I have because they're probably just not that correct. So great question. That's something that we could definitely get back to you on and get you some insight from some of our AI specialists for sure.
Of course, yeah. When we share this recording, and we will be sharing the recording, will anything that we've not been able to handle during the webinar, we'll just come back to. I don't know if this is another one like that. Zach, can you see the question? Is that something that we want to defer back to or take now?
Yeah. So I'll read out the question because it's an interesting question. It's pretty technical, but I'll read it real quick. So the LLM is using MCP and running keyword or metadata searches via API. It's not via API. It's via the MCP. It's a different protocol, but I get what you're saying. On the target system, provided the target system has OCR content, then the LLM is analyzing the results of that API call and serving up relevant results to the user. Essentially, yes, we're not using an API. MCP is its own protocol. It actually replaces the API in a lot of different ways. I mean, it's all connected, but anyway, you are basically describing how it's working, yes, in a very technical way, but that is essentially how it's working. Yeah.
I think the other perhaps interesting observation, bearing in mind we're all doing observations, not questions, which I quite like. But so someone stressed to me once, tell me if you think what your thoughts are. They were like, MCP right now, everyone thinks it can, do everything. It can make tea, it can, but you have to be careful of assuming too much because it's capable of doing. I think maybe this that slightly comes back to this CLM, functionality, but it can do what the system can do, right? It's not going to, if in the context of a document management system, the DMS does not have semantic search, it's not going to be able to create. It's important to remember that it's going to be capable. Perhaps this sounds really obvious, but this is something that we've had conversations about quite a bit. Do you think that's worth talking about?
I think the limitations to it are definitely important because what I have found from my own use of the MCP, I use it every single day. It gets a lot of stuff really, really right, especially when it comes to like, drafting replies or drafting language. Like there's a lot of stuff there that's good. I think sometimes it is missing some of the, not the data, but like the information around the data. For example, I'll have it give me that list of like, hey, these are the deals to follow up with, but I'll know, well, I had this other conversation that you're not aware of, and I know that this other deal is actually much more important than the ones I was talking about. And so there's context that maybe it doesn't have because it's only looking at pure data. And so I think it's always really important. That's a good point, to go through the results, to actually like check them against the source material and just make sure that it has all the relevant data that it needs to have in order to make good decisions. And if it doesn't, then you probably shouldn't use exactly what it's telling you, or that's where you would be able to kind of work with it to get you a better answer. But I think one thing that our CEO especially does an amazing job of, I've seen him work a lot with AI, is he'll kind of like battle the AI, where it's like he's always going in there and saying like, hey, this is not good enough, this should be better, give me more results or give me more specific results. Or he'll come in and say, hey, if I'm an advisor and you're advising me to do something specifically, how would you change your replies? And so you're kind of like challenging the AI. And I think if you're doing that, then you're going to get to the best results. And I wouldn't always take the first results for sure. Is I think kind of the moral of the story is, it's like, yeah, run it once, but then maybe come in and have it run itself again, and maybe be a little bit more specific about it. So I think those
Yeah.
are all important things. And always check, especially when we're talking about legal and contracts and all those types of things. We always recommend checking everything twice for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, with it being grounded. So we talked a lot in the early days about it being grounded in data, not going, not just going out to the internet. Like, this comes into the context of your sort of area. It comes in with the big publishing companies. They'll be talking about, you can take comfort from the fact that this is grounded in your data, that it's not just going to be going off to the internet to find an answer. How relevant and applicable is that here?
Yeah, I think that the good news is, like, they are specifically tied, the MCP is tied specifically into your systems. And so that's why, going back to the prompting that I mentioned, if you can be more specific about where you want it to look for that data, I think you're going to get better results. So a lot of that just comes down to the actual prompting and training the model. Like with Claude, for example, I'm able to actually train my instance of Claude. So when I put something in there, it already has like a lot of the relevant information from my previous conversations. And so it does a much better job of replying to myself. So the more that you can kind of train it and give it the better prompts, I think you're going to have it find the best sources and also work off of your sources. And if it pulls some random thing that's like, that's not relevant to me at all, just go in there and train it. Be like, hey, that's not relevant. Please stick to my source material, stick to my boilerplate agreements, or whatever it is that you want it to use. And I think that that will really help with it too. Yeah.
So someone in the chat's made a good observation, that which we've kind of flagged, but we can do a little dive into now, about the fact that it's not just about search, it's about actions. You've already shown the live data access element. So what you do with MCP is you take an LLM and you enable it to take action, which is interrogate your data. So you can look at the CLM and you can say, tell me about the status of these auto renewal clauses, for example. So that's live data access, but perhaps we could do a slight deeper dive into the cross-system intelligence, which is where you start to really be able to take action, perhaps. So talk me through the workflow, what it might look like in the terms in your world across contracts, perhaps matter management, policies, etc. What could that look like in terms of the actions that it can take?
Let me talk through another use case, and thank you for that. I completely agree with you on that, Paul. It was we are just scratching the surface so far, so let's get into some deeper stuff here.
I like that. Makes me happy, Zach, that it says Happy Thursday, Zach, by the way.
Yep, awesome. Yes, and it's always got these great things, the AI just was very friendly for sure. um, so kind of taking it to the next level, Paul is right. You can ask simple questions, it'll give you simple responses. Great. Like, that's the easy thing. But let's actually take it to where we are using it to automate our lives and to take action. So in this case, I'm going to have it find all active NDAs with a certain company, check if we have any open support tickets in HubSpot, and then draft a renewal email. So I'm actually using different connections and different tools here to be able to come to just to automate my work, basically. And so, to your point about it can also take action, absolutely it can. And that goes really to the AI agents as well. We're like, right now I'm prompting it, I'm asking these questions, and it's kind of a very manual, like, I ask it something, it does it, I ask it does it. You can also build agents, and we have agents. And of course, Claude is having issues right now. One second. Sometimes this happens too. It's
The
not
live
always.
demo.
Live demo effect. Let me try it one more time. Usually if I redo it, it'll work fine. Let's try it. Ah, this is the cool one too. I really wanted to show you this. Hopefully it'll work.
Oh, it looks like we might be there.
We'll see. But what I was talking about is these AI agents. So we have agents for like sales calls and for like customer success calls, and it really could be anything where it'll actually go through our calendar that morning and it'll see who we're meeting with, and then it will give us a breakdown of like, hey, these are all the things to think about when you're having these conversations. This is a background on the company, on your contact, and that's just an agent that we built that runs actually in Slack and it's able to do that every single morning. So there's a lot of these cool things you can do that are much more automated than having to go in and ask the questions. And I think Claude is just not working right now. So we may have to come back to this,
You,
and I'll keep trying it on the side. I'll let you know if it starts working
we
here.
can,
But
Jack, we're good at this. We can just zip around. We can do what we like. Let's talk about where it's headed, and then we'll come back to. I really want to see that. So in a short period of time, we're going to see perhaps MCP become a baseline. Is that fair to say? Where do you think we're headed?
yeah, absolutely. There's a great slide for this. So let me pull that up.
Yeah.
So like we talked about before, MCP is still very, very new. So if you look at this, it started in November of 2024 is really like when Anthropic is a company that created this protocol. They are the makers of Claude. This is not like a Claude commercial, I promise you, but just so happens that that's what we're using today. But they basically are the ones that came up with the protocol, and then it was adopted by all these other companies. So last year was much about like the adoption. All these different tools started putting these MCPs in place. And from in 1 year, we have over 20,000 active MCP servers now. So the growth has just been exponential. It's been pretty wild to see kind of how it is over time. As far as where we're heading right now, so right now we're kind of still in that people are learning about it. We're seeing what things are good, what things are bad, what's working, what's not. We really feel at Concord that the early adopters are happening right now where people are in there, the people that are like a little bit more techy, a little bit more willing to give it a try. They're doing some pretty cool things. We think by 2027, by next year, MCP will just be like the standard, very much the way that I was part of the whole like on-prem to cloud boom. I'm that old. I know maybe I look younger than that, but I remember when that all happened, it was like everyone was moving over to the cloud for the first time, and that just became the standard. E-signature became the standard in a lot of ways. That I remember selling e-signature, 15, 20 years ago, and that still was like a very new thing, and people were unsure about it. So we feel like that'll be very similar with MCP, where it just becomes like something that everyone uses in their work. You'll come into your computer every day, you'll log into your LLM, and it'll be able to run these agents for you and do these different things. And you don't even have to log in; it'll do it through Slack or Teams or whatever. So we really feel like this is going to be the standard going forward, just the way to easily connect systems together for sure.
Do you think that applies so as much to the legal tech vendor community? Do you expect that this will become just expected over the next, say, 12 months, 12 to 24 months, that legal tech vendors would be expected to adopt MCP if they haven't already?
Absolutely. We've seen a lot of our other players in the space have already, basically released their MCPs or they have first iterations of their MCPs. I feel like right now, not everybody's opening up the entire system to MCP. Some of the other vendors will have like certain things you can do with the MCP server and not everything. At Concord, we kind of just opened it all up. We wanted to make sure that it was very usable for people so they could get in and do what they need to do. But yes, that will be the next thing. I think MCP and AI agents, you will see a lot about them on LinkedIn over the next 12 months if you're not already. That's really kind of where everyone is headed for sure.
Do you think do you think it is for vendors, and is it an opportunity or a threat, or an opportunity and a threat, not a threat at all? Like, I feel like we've got in legal a certain element of everyone wants to be the platform, where everyone lives, and MCP's kind of turbo boosted that a little bit, but like I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's an opportunity?
I think it's a massive opportunity. I think we're going to see a lot of change in the CLM space, especially because right now you have a lot of like your CLM is your source of truth. Everything lives there. And you should have one source of truth for all of your documents. But I feel like sometimes things can kind of get stuck there. Where with MCP, that's really opening up all these different tools to be able to communicate and talk together. And so instead of having point solutions, I think in the future we're going to have much more sources of data where the MCPs and the LLMs are going to be able to access that data and then, take action based on different things. So I think the way that software is being designed right now is very different than it was 10 years ago. We are seeing that internally at Concord quite a bit. And I have a lot of friends in the tech space that are doing, seeing the same things. And that's a good thing because they're opening up their tools to be able to be accessible through MCP, through the LLMs. And it just makes it much more powerful in general. Now, if you're not willing to adopt to these new things, I think that is a huge threat to your business because, who knows what's going to happen if you're not willing to kind of embrace it. But I think only time will tell. But yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity right now.
I know this is a question above both of us, but like I was listening to this really interesting podcast on MCP where they were saying that there's no guarantee that there might not be another standard, right? So Anthropic has introduced MCP. It's something that everyone's grouping around because it makes sense. It's a language that everyone can use to communicate it. It's a no-brainer in terms of being able to connect and do really cool stuff. But does that matter in terms of like end user strategies? The people that are starting to really make big decisions, spend big money in your space and beyond, like do you think that matters? Is that something of concern to people or not really?
I think it definitely could happen. Right now it seems like everyone's adopted that protocol because it's kind of the fastest way to get everyone on the same page, and
Yeah.
maybe that'll continue to be the case. I think in the end, it'll probably be like, we come from the tech space, which is like, yeah, there's a million different ways to do a million different things, and so eventually, I'm sure there probably will be other protocols, but I don't think it'll matter in the end. I think it'll probably be easy to connect any of those different systems together. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's talk about what to watch out for. So we in the legal space we're always naturally cautious, quite fairly so, I think. Like we've got a lot of very confidential data. Your clients have a ton, law firms have a ton. So when you're talking about authentication and permissions, let's dive into that a little bit. We're sort of getting close to time, but this is such a big topic. I definitely want to make sure we've got some time to touch on it. Talk me through where what you think people need to watch out for or be aware
Yeah,
of.
absolutely. That is a massive thing. I think especially legal teams, but really, I mean, when you're talking about sensitive company data, that's, we don't want to throw all of our security out the window for sure when it comes to these tools. So the one thing that we recommend always is that you have a paid account with your LLM. The reason that that's important is because you'll typically have what's called a zero data retention policy with that LLM provider if you have a paid account, meaning that they're not going to use your data to train the model. They're not going to have access to your data for different reasons. And so we always recommend having that in place. The other important thing with our MCP connection with Concord is that it is still permission based, meaning that only people that you can only ask questions about the documents you have access to in the system. So I can't sit there and be like, hey, what does Joe from the legal team, what do they make every year? Find their HR contract for me and tell me how much money they make. You can't do that because you don't have access to those documents. And so I think that's super important to be able to have those security kind of controls in place and permissions in place to where you only have access to the data that you should have access to. And also you have those agreements in place with your LLM provider or your different, technology tools to make sure that they're not using your data for anything they shouldn't be using your data for. So I think that's
Yeah.
definitely all very important. We rewrote our contract last year to be have all these new kind of AI mentions in there, and that's been important for us because it's kind of the number one most asked about thing now is like, hey, how are you using our data? Are you training the model with it? Are you giving it to other people? Obviously, we're not, so that's good, but that's very important for sure.
Yeah. What are people most worried about that you speak to? Have you covered it? Is that it? Is it permissioning? Is it beyond that?
I think the two things that are still coming up a lot are the permissions and security. That's huge. And especially, a lot of these companies, sometimes it takes 6 months just to get through their security process, right? For them to buy a new vendor. Like they're already pretty cautious. And so adding on AI, this whole other provider and this whole other way that people can access the data, I think that that is definitely a concern. The good news is like people have gotten through that and they have internal, policies in place that I think have helped a lot. And then the other thing is just how accurate is the actual data? Like, okay, this thing's finding me data and is doing stuff for me, but can I trust it? So there's still that kind of like gut check, like, is this accurate? Is this something that I can trust to be able to run my business with and to be able to make decisions with? I think people are learning to trust it more and more because honestly, I think AI is just getting better, every single day. I think we'll probably get to a point where that trust level is pretty high. But I think right now it's still good to be cautious. Like I said, always check the results, always double check everything and make sure that it kind of passes that, test and it feels good to you. So.
Yeah, there's so many ways to do that, isn't there? In terms of like linking to the original documents, etc. Do you want to quickly try your demo, or because I want to make sure we've got time for some takeaways? But do you want to see?
It did run actually. It did work. So I'll just show you the results here to save some time. So basically, let me pick that back up. So just as a reminder, I asked the question, find all active NDAs with Acme Corp, check if we have any open support tickets with them in HubSpot, and then draft a renewal email. So it did its thing. It went through all my different systems here. It kind of figured out how to do it. It searched through everything here in HubSpot. And so it said it found all the information it needed. It found multiple active agreements with Acme Corp that have provisions in them, and then it wrote this email for me. And I could even have it send this email if I had my email connected into my MCP. I don't because I don't want it to accidentally send something for me, but you could have it do that if you wanted to. But it did exactly what I wanted. It found the contracts, it found the people inside of HubSpot, the accounts, and then it drafted this email for me, which is pretty cool. So just kind of showing how you can have it take multiple actions for you.
Of course, of course. If anyone wants to jump in on that, by all means do, in the chat. So what now? So, I mean, we were going to talk a little bit about what it takes to use MCP, which I think, we'll have to probably skim a little bit over. But so for users, you've shown it's nothing, it's quite significant investment for vendors. But and for users, it's no time at all. In terms of what now? So do you want to do some key takeaways? So what should people be thinking about immediately in terms of legal tech leaders? What should they be thinking about doing today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just, getting started, right? I think the biggest way to do that is just to actually get an account, get set up. You can also ask your vendors. The important thing is you need tools to be able to connect into. So you need to start asking your vendors if they have an MCP or if they're planning to release an MCP anytime soon, because without the actual connection through the MCP, it doesn't really work, obviously. So the first thing would be to ask the vendors, about that strategy, see if they have it or if they're planning to have it. The next thing would be to educate your team just to make sure that people understand what this is, what it's all about, how it can help them automate their work. And then the last thing is just start small and, start learning. Set up an account, make sure that that's all validated through your IT and security team, but set up your account, start using it, and then I think you'll quickly learn that it can make your life a little bit easier and hopefully make your work a little bit more autonomous as well. So yeah, those are the things that kind of do now is those three things.
So yeah, so education so important, and starting with sort of bite-sized things that people can get their teeth in and start to really understand how it works. I think that's been awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your questions. It's really great to have that interaction. It just goes to show how there's this huge curiosity out there about that, which I think actually, Zach, is this great place to start as well, right? That curiosity. I think that I love seeing the energy around this. It sounds a bit cheesy, but I do, and it's so interesting getting your insights. So thank you so much for making the time. Thank you everybody for listening in. We will be sharing the recording, and if you've got any other questions for Zach and for Concord after the webinar, then we can help facilitate that. So I'm saying people saying goodbye in the chat. Thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate your time. Thanks, Zach.
Thanks. Yep. Appreciate it.